They are the kings of the Australian outback.
You've got to concentrate all the time.
Some of the biggest trains in the world.
Things go wrong with these things. Normally makes a big mess.
On epic journeys through a hostile continent.
I don't know what we're going to do. Just slow down and blow the horn.
A nation depends on them.
All go, boys, get into it.
And the teams that keep these metal monsters on the tracks. Hauling huge loads of food, freight and mineral riches across incredible distances.
We are out in the middle of nowhere, that's for sure.
Big trains, big country. On Railroad Australia, fields of fire. The heat is on.
There is a lot of pressure.
To get sugarcane to the mill.
And things can go wrong. That's why we've got to be on our game.
A missing train.
Where it exactly is at the minute, do you know?
They're waiting to load and could miss the boat.
You've got a port window and that's what you've got to stick to. Yeah, I can't have him blocked. This train's got to go out this afternoon.
And an intruder on the tracks.
Hey, Will, you're up.
Stops an outback adventurer. In the sugar fields of far north Queensland, farmers are setting fire to their crop. A burn-off to get rid of excess vegetation known as trash, leaving only the tough, flame-resistant stalk rich in sugar to be harvested. As the fire rages across one field, in another,
Hey, Scrominy approaching the yard.
cane driver Ray Stinger Giles and his offsider Michael McNeil are hauling bins of freshly cut cane to the mill.
All this walking keeps you fit, eh? They haven't found an easier way, obviously.
We've got a 40-tonne loco with a brake van on the back. You've got about 1,600 tonne behind you. So that's a lot of weight, and you've got to know what you're doing and when you've got to do it.
Sugar is a $2 billion industry in these parts.
It is a really constant battle making sure that the trains are on time and keeping them going out so the whole factory can keep on going.
An entire region depends on drivers like Stinger, getting the crop from the fields to the factory as fast as possible.
The longer it stays burnt without sending it to the mill and getting crushed, the lower the sugar content of the cane, the less money we get.
The ticking clock piles the pressure on Stinger and his fellow drivers. He's returned this load early, but tomorrow's another day.
It's a great relief, really, to go all that way up there and give back before the end of our shift.
Tomorrow's trip will be the toughest. Setting out from the sugar mill at Garoo near Townsville, travelling 100 kilometres south to Millaroo and return. Collecting from one of the remotest farms. The lines through the fields are rough and basic. They have a 200-kilometre round trip. The sky today is clear, but the forecast for tomorrow is for fog. Stinger and Michael are in for a tough day. Heading northwest to the old gold mining haunts of the early pioneers, where one of the great characters of Australian rail, the Savannalander, is halfway through a 4-day journey deep into the outback. After travelling from Cairns to the old gold mining outpost of Forsyth, drivers Will Kemp and Lee Johns are setting out on the return leg, back to the coast.
It's all about just making time today.
A 10-hour run ahead of them.
All that looking at pretty scenery and stopping at creeks and all that sort of thing. Nah, sorry. Can't do it.
They have a strict deadline to get back to home base in Cairns. But before they set off, Will needs to go shopping for what could be the most important purchase of his life.
How you going? Just at the little gem dealership in Mount Surprise. My girlfriend, partner, whatever you want to call it. I've been with her for about 7 years now, and, you know, it's time to step up to the plate and that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Gorgeous.
Isn't it just?
It's fantastic. Just hopefully she hasn't changed her mind from any previous agreements.
But there's a long journey and a lot of work to be done before he gets to make his proposal.
Big day today. It's the last day. It's the most tiring. It sometimes can be a very trying day. Good morning, everyone. G'day. Welcome aboard.
Lee is up front for the start of the long haul, 400 kilometres back to Cairns. But keeping the Savannalander running on schedule isn't easy. The tracks are unfenced and the cattle are willful and unpredictable.
Pushing some cattle up the line here, but down over on the right-hand side, you can see why they're hanging around down here. There's a creek. They're not the brightest animals. If you've got 50 of them on the left and you've got 5 on the right, you know the 5 on the right are going to go to the left. So we tend to miss them. But yeah, it's not uncommon to have them right up against the front of the train as you're cruising along.
The last thing Will wants is a holdup. Or even worse, a damaged train that can't make it back.
Yep, there we go, thought so. Going across onto the right.
After crawling through the cattle, Lee hits the throttle. But even in cruise mode, his eyes are trained on the track. He's done this run enough times to expect the unexpected. Suddenly, he spots something on the tracks.
Hey, Will, you're up.
Lee hits the brakes. He fears he's run something over.
Just gone past it. It's probably behind us, hopefully didn't move.
Will has to race back to investigate. From west of Cairns, 2,000 kilometres south to Dubbo, New South Wales, where crews at the Fletcher's freight depot are working flat out to get a train loaded and moving in just a few hours. The train is due to depart Dubbo for a 500 kilometre trip east to the port in Sydney. These containers have to be full and on the train by early afternoon for an overnight journey to port.
We've got to be away by 2:30 today, so we get back into port for a 6 o'clock window in the morning.
Trouble is, the train they're supposed to be loading hasn't arrived. Operations Manager Sean Magnuson is trying to find out why not.
Throw our train on the GPS where it exactly is at the minute, do you know?
The news from train control isn't good.
We've got our train, which is only about 6 k's out of town here, and we've got an ore train.
Track control could give the coal train priority.
What happens is that Broadmeadow might let him go through first, and then we'll have an hour and a half wait.
Sean can't afford to lose 90 minutes of precious loading time.
Yeah, I can't have him blocked. This train's got to go out this afternoon.
The 3 Fletcher's locomotives waiting just down the track are towing empty containers. But when the train gets to the Fletcher's depot, they have to be taken off before full containers with meat, cotton and wheat can replace them.
He's going to lock us away, is he?
If Sean can't negotiate a green light for his train,
how long are we going to be blocked for?
He's looking at expensive delays.
It's costly. We have to truck boxes into the port, 100 odd boxes at $350 a box. It gets a bit exy.
The fate of Sean's freight train is in someone else's hands. But the This morning, Sean is in luck.
Oh, that's all right, mate.
Train control gives him the break he needs and lets the Fletchers train through first. Now the race is on to assemble a 1.2 kilometre train in just a few hours.
Yeah, g'day, mate. It's Bernie on 8148.
How are you, Bernie?
I'm doing just fine, thank you, sir.
Veteran driver Bernie Baker is in charge for the first leg.
For 4,197 tonne. Oh, look at all those 100-tonne wagons. All right, we're going to know we're alive tonight then, that's good.
It's heavy and long. The 3 locomotives will be pulling 62 wagons over the Great Dividing Range. 1,100 metres high. Nearly 100 kilometres across. No place for a train this size. In the North Queensland cane fields, a crop is being burned. Now it has to be harvested and transported to the mill quickly before the sugar content starts to drop.
Hey, comedy currently the yard for Miller Delbeck.
Stinger is one of the drivers who has to make sure this happens.
There is a lot of pressure, but from the time it's harvested till it's crushed, it's quite critical in the sense that the sugar content deteriorates in the cane. And things can go wrong. That's why we've got to be on our game so that you can get your run done in a reasonable amount of time.
Stinger and his offsider Michael have done their train checks, but a thick fog is rolling in, threatening to bring things to a standstill.
You've got to be more aware of what's happening when it is foggy. You've got to give yourself a little bit more room to slow down.
Visibility from the train is terrible.
Yeah, I can see his headlights. Just.
That's a train in front of them, on the same line.
Hey, Scrummety, Brad Luke.
The siding they're going to isn't visible until the very last moment.
But we're going to go off to the right because there's only one line in and out of the mill, and if you have a major derailment here, it's going to stop the locos coming from bringing the cane back to the mill, and it's stopping the locos delivering the next lot of empty bins to the contractors. So it'll slow the whole process up.
After the trains pass, Stinger and Michael continue to nurse their train through the fog.
It's probably the worst fog we've had.
I would say visibility would be down to about 20 metres.
Yeah.
At this speed, their chances of getting to their consignment of cane on time are not looking good. But the fog shows no sign of lifting soon. To make matters worse, ahead are 2 busy roads.
We're just about to cross the Bruce Highway.
The train might be going slow this morning, but the traffic isn't.
Yeah, fog's pretty thick, eh? Cromley Loco, we're just going to come through Mona Park heading towards Clare, eh?
We just got to make sure that there's no problems going across. Because obviously if we have a derailment on the highway, it's going to stop traffic as well.
We do a lot of damage, not only to machinery, but life and limb as well, you know.
There are no boom gates on this section of the road, only warning lights. Stinger has the lights on his loco blazing, but the fog is thick and the motorists are in a hurry. The driver spots Stinger's train at the last moment. A close call. Stinger's going to have a nerve-wracking trip if these conditions don't improve soon. From foggy North Queensland to the east coast of New South Wales and the inland centre of Dubbo.
And we're right to go. Oh, you ready, Anthony? No, mate.
The giant Fletcher's meat, wheat and cotton train is loaded and moving. It's 62 wagons long and has a 500-kilometre journey ahead of it. Part of that over the Great Dividing Range, one of the steepest climbs on Australia's railways. As it crawls out of the depot, workers check that all wagons are fit and ready for the difficult job ahead.
So they're making sure no handbrakes and that are on, everything's making the noises that it should. No air leaks in the hoses and things like that as well.
Say hello to Jimmy.
The inland climate on the route Bernie's taking can throw up extreme conditions, sometimes freezing.
Yeah, you got frosty rails and sanders aren't quite working properly. And
sometimes so hot.
The track can buckle just because of the heat.
Yeah.
Bernie's had first-hand experience with track buckle. This scary footage was shot from the cabin of a train he was driving.
Whoa!
What's the wheels, man? What's the wheels?
The loco's wheels came off the track, but Bernie managed to pull up before a full-scale derailment. Incidents like that remind Bernie how important his job is.
These logos are worth what? $5.5 million each. And just even damaging a loco, you know, that logo's got to be taken out of service. You've got to find a logo to replace that one, so there's higher charges, plus the repairs. All adds up. We get paid for keeping ourselves alive and everyone else alive around us, you know. Not paid for our good looks, which is just as well. I'd be broke if I got paid for looks.
Bernie has a town to get through before this big rig builds up speed for the first serious hill.
So we got what we call Big Kahlua. She's pretty steep.
It's steep.
Just make sure you have a good run up. Here we come.
Bernie has the easiest part of the journey.
Yeah, just keep powering up, Bernie.
Righto, mate.
An 8-hour haul to the top of these mountains. It will be night when they get there, and another fresh crew will take over for the difficult descent down the range in the dark. The Savannalander has had to make an unscheduled stop in the middle of nowhere. Lee spotted something on the tracks. It's up to Will to check it out.
Yeah, right, I'm just trying to get back now, see it.
The train ran over the top of a mystery creature, but it may have survived. It's a snake.
I don't think you got him anyway. That's the good news.
Luckily, Will's an ex-zookeeper who knows his reptiles.
So, yeah, this little fellow just sitting in the middle of the track. It's a little black-headed python.
Not venomous, but not a pet either.
Lee knows my affection for these guys. Often likes to stop to make sure that he hasn't injured it, and it doesn't look like he has at all. It's fine. All good?
All good.
Yeah, lovely.
That's a baby, yeah. This year's, I'd say.
Touch if you want.
Oh! Snap! You got a good heart.
Will's girlfriend, who he plans to propose to when he gets back to Cairns, is also a wildlife carer. That's given him an idea.
Now, I've asked Mel to come down to Cairns Station tonight when we bring the train in. I've told her that I actually ran over a snake and I've damaged its tail and that it's going to need veterinary attention. Put the bag down on the ground, reach into it. Inside the bag, there's no snake, of course, but there's a ring. Pull it out and hopefully it all goes well. Pretty nervous.
For now, Will needs to keep his mind on the train and the track in front. There are roads out here that the Savannah-lander has to cross, but no level crossings or warning lights. Nothing to alert a motorist that a train is coming.
We dread it. The Burke Development Road crossing. 100 km/h speed limit. A lot of road trains use it. The only thing we've got protecting ourselves is, of course, a give way sign.
It's a nervous moment. Big trucks over 40 metres long can do 100 kilometres an hour on this road.
Visibility with this crossing too isn't the best until you sort of get right on top of it, so it's really important to slow it right down and make sure everything's clear before you proceed.
After the crossing, they can make good speed. Will's proposal is still on track, but there's one last hold-up he can't avoid.
The odd train that came through, they were still more than happy to get out and rob it.
Yes, train robbers, after some easy pocket money.
Best thing to do is stay seated.
The legend of Ned Kelly, Australia's most famous bushranger, lives on.
People think this is a joke. We had a passenger laugh last week, he got his head blown off. They take anything, they take gold coins, they take 5-cent pieces, they take Werther's originals. Now, that's some of the most irresponsible parenting I've ever bloody seen.
In the sugarcane fields, Stinger's train has avoided the traffic, but he's still battling through thick fog.
Hopefully this fog will lift in an hour or so.
They're heading for a cane farm on the edge of the growing area. It's the longest trip of their roster.
If anything happens here, if we have a derailment or any hold-up, we have four of the locos behind us, won't be able to get out.
70 kilometres down the track on the farm Stinger is trying to get to, the harvest is going full throttle. The sun is blazing and has finally blown away the fog that was hampering operations.
Visibility is back to normal, really. You can see for kilometres.
Before Stinger and Michael can pick up the cut crop, there are empty bins to drop off at other farms.
Let me know when you've hooked up. I'll get you to come back about one bin.
Righto.
We're going to be dropping 54 empties, head further up where we're picking up some more empties, and then going up to 6, dropping off 87, and start picking up from 6, I believe.
The tracks Stinger's train is running on are narrow gauge, just 2 foot or 60 centimetres wide, half the width of regular lines. It makes river crossings like this even more precarious.
There is a wind monitor that gives traffic an indication of how fast the wind is, whether or not we can cross or not.
It's only 100 feet to the bottom, I'd say. Gives me a thrill every time I go across it.
Stinger and Michael drop off their last load of empties. Now the train shortens dramatically. It's just loco and brake van. It makes for a cosy and quick run until the next bridge.
The combined weight of the loco and the brake van is about 80 tonnes, and it's not safe to have that combined weight on that one span on the bridge.
They have to be uncoupled and make the crossing one at a time. Loco first, and then the brake van by remote control. The brake van should release automatically when Stinger hits a button in the loco.
The brake van didn't come uncoupled from the loco.
But today, it's not going according to plan.
Some locos, the couplings they catch, whether it's on a corner or it's on a lean or whatever.
Still attached, it's not coming off.
I don't know what we're going to do.
After an 8-hour, 250-kilometre run through the inland, Bernie Baker's freight train has reached the edge of the Blue Mountains, where there'll be a crew change.
Big fella, how's it going?
The new drivers will be in charge of getting the train safely down the mountains to the port of Sydney.
In Sydney? Yeah, bangers and mash. Man's got to eat. Man's got to eat. See you, mate.
See you Monday morning.
All right, see you then. Okay, ta-da.
The trip will demand constant vigilance from drivers Mick Grantham and Simon Briggs, in control of 3 locomotives, holding back the weight of a train more than a kilometre long.
We had 3 engines, 3 of them, all working, and we've got they're 4,500 horsepower each.
They'll be descending more than 1,000 metres down steep grades, with 62 wagons carrying 5,000 tonnes of freight pushing from behind. But before the descent, there's one last climb.
We're in full power now going up the zigzag bank, which is a 1 in 40 gradient, which means that for every 40 metres we go along, it goes up 1 metre. Steel on steel, you haven't got much friction. Compare that to rubber on a car tyre against bitumen, you've got a lot of grip, but steel on steel there ain't.
The train disappears into the first of a series of century-old tunnels.
They built them between 1908 and 1910.
There are 9 more after they get through this one.
So it's one of the places you've got to be a little bit careful with the train.
The water drips through the tunnels. You get it on the rails as well. I tend to not come up through in full power anyway. There's a little bit less ask of the wheels on the rails.
You can't take it for granted either.
Oh, I don't take nothing for granted.
The next signal just round the corner here is just before the big drop. So that's the start of it just here.
It's all downhill from here. 60 kilometres of hard braking.
We're going to take our time. That'll make things simple. That way, if we go a bit slow, then you're not going to burn out your brake shoes.
It's pretty much for the next hour, just slow running downhill with the brakes on.
These trains had 2 braking systems, and on a descent this steep, they'll both be working overtime.
That's the air brake. The red one's the automatic brake handle, which works the brake shoes on every wheel of the train.
The second system is called dynamic braking. The 3 locos generate electricity, which runs motors that drive the wheels.
It works back through the traction motors. The traction motors stop being a motor and they start becoming a generator.
To keep the train from running away downhill, the drivers reverse thrust, so the engines are working against the train instead of driving it.
You can't just put the brakes on and off willy-nilly. You've really got to plan your applications out.
It's the early hours of the morning, but Mick and Simon are wide awake, guiding this giant through the mountains, keeping its speed constant, the braking just right.
They're quite steep. You could best this up fairly easily.
The train and drivers work hard on this 60-minute downhill stretch. It's maximum strain. If something's going to break, this is the time. It's so tough on the trains that safety authorities have installed a sophisticated detection unit at the side of the tracks to check nothing's wrong.
It picks up hot wheels, it picks up hot bearings. It's got drag detectors, so if there's something hanging down from the wagon, it'll pick that up as well.
And they'll give us what type of alarm it is, what they think's wrong, what wagon it's on, what axle number.
Will is back at the controls of the Savannah Lander, which is still 5 hours away from its destination of Cairns.
After 4 days on the train, the afternoon shift is where you've got to be the most alert. It's also the shift where you're probably feeling the most drained, fatigued and ready for a weekend.
But his most important task is ahead, proposing to his girlfriend with the engagement ring that's in his pocket. And everywhere he looks, love is in the air.
So he's attracting his female now. Well, it's pretty similar to what we do, isn't it? See a pretty girl you like, jump up and down and carry on like an idiot.
The train reaches the mountain range outside of Cairns.
And that's about as dry as they get. In the wet season, obviously, they flow a lot more.
From here, it's a steep and spectacular descent towards the sea through a series of historic tunnels.
This is tunnel number 15, the longest tunnel on the range, just under 500 metres in length. 6 men alone died in the construction of this tunnel. Pretty dangerous work. All done, dynamite, picks and shovels.
Will's asked his girlfriend of 7 years to meet him at the station.
Oh, you need to see the ring. Oh, yeah.
He hopes to propose right there on the platform. And to do it, he has a cunning plan.
I've wanted to ask her something for a while. And you know that black-headed python that we ran over today? I told her we injured it. So, sweetie, can you please meet me at Cairns Station and I'll give you the black-headed python and you can take it straight home. I'm going to put this ring in the bottom of the snake bag. If she says yes, cheer. If she says no, come give me a cuddle, because I'm probably going to need it. I'm nervous as buggery, eh?
The Savannah-lander is back in Cairns, and Will is only minutes from proposing to the love of his life.
Will's gone on adrenaline and excitement and nerves. Half a dozen level crossings to go and we'll be safe.
She gave him all the right signals. But the same can't be said for traffic control.
This is the longest bloody red light I've ever had to wait for.
You're going to have to radio.
Yeah, I've just got to get on the train control, guys, about this red light, sorry. Oh, yeah, control, just stop short of CS14. We've just got a red light there, over.
Yeah, just waiting. Dave, what were you on the level crossing there, over?
This comes down to the fact that this rail motor is too light to be detected on the circuitry of, that they've got set up for these level crossings in Cairns.
No, sorry, no, still got a red over.
Always last level crossing before you knock off on a Saturday.
I don't know what we're going to do.
Stinger and his train are on the wrong side of a bridge.
The brake van didn't come uncoupled from the loco.
With the brake van so close, he's too heavy to cross. He must uncouple it.
If you can't get the brake van uncoupled from the loco, you've got to get the mechanics or the navvies or the boiler makers to come up and do it.
It should just be a matter of flicking a switch, but the switch isn't doing its job. The brake van won't let go.
First go I had at it, I was doing about 10 kilometres an hour, and the brake van wouldn't come unhooked.
They're on a tight deadline. Stinger has to think on the run.
You're not allowed to have the loco and the brake van, which is a combined weight of 80 tonnes or more, on the span at the one time.
He hopes if he accelerates quicker, he can jolt it free. Not this time. But on the next run, his plan works. The loco makes the crossing to the other side.
We were lucky we were able to solve the problem there and then and save a lot of inconvenience to a lot of people.
Stinger then uses a remote to bring his brake van across. It's the last hurdle. Before Stinger and Mick get to pick up their final bins of sugarcane.
Righto, you're right to come back. Couple of couplings. Okay, we got them all.
It's like a racing car pit stop. Stinger and Michael have to be in and out in the quickest possible time.
Can we start pulling out?
Yeah, you're right to keep pulling out.
With more than 100 bins in tow, they're back on the move again. But something isn't right. The wheels behind Stinger are screaming out.
Oh, he hasn't taken
So we've got down onto the level track. The back of the train's still giving us a bit of a push because we're still coming downhill at the back. But that's just about stopped and it's almost time to put the power back on so that we can keep going forward.
The Fletcher's freight train is safely down the mountain, cruising through the Sydney metropolitan system on its way to the port. But the job is far from over. The drivers now have to break the train up to go to different yards.
I've got to make sure I cut off at exactly the right spot. If I don't cut off at the right spot, then the wrong wagons end up in the wrong place and it just gets messy from there.
It should be routine.
That's what we're up to there. Have you got the brakes on, Mick? One of them has.
There's a deafening sound at the back of the train that's got Simon worried.
There's a lot of noise coming from one of the wagons up here. I can hear it coming down the line now. It's not entirely healthy. And they've been on for a little while too. It's definitely something wrong with the brakes. We'll see what we can do with it.
They have limited time in the shunting yards, so this problem with the brakes needs to be fixed.
Mick, can you just give it a full service? Once it's fully equalised, then knock them off.
Simon asks Mick to pump more air through the system to see if they can unlock the Rogue brake set.
If that doesn't clear it, I'll cut the wagon out, mate.
No dramas.
Yeah, I pulled the release lever and it went in and immediately came back out. So there's something wrong with it.
With time running short, Simon decides to disconnect the van's brakes altogether.
We'll isolate the brakes on this wagon and put some cards on it to say that it's defective.
The clock's ticking. The train has to be broken up. They'll have to shunt around the faulty wagon. The solution is fast and brutal. A dramatic end to a difficult journey that's taken this mega train 500 kilometres from farm to port, across a mountain range and into the docks on time. Soon, these containers will be on ships, sailing to markets around the world. In Cairns, the Savannah-lander is stuck at a level crossing, waiting for a green light.
They've got like this timeout sort of feature. So it's sort of like 4 minutes until it turns itself off.
It might do it itself and then we clear.
Will's proposal will have to wait, like the train.
So many signs, Will. You sure you want to do this?
Alright, 5399, just 4 minutes, mate. I'll wait a time out and then try again.
4 minutes. Righto, thanks, mate. About an hour too late. We really apologise to the guys. There seems to be some sort of a ghost in the machine.
Should I get closer? No, I don't have to get closer. No, you're fine.
Finally, he gets permission to move on.
Yeah. Oh, wrong platform. Look, I'm really sorry. There's so many signs. They've given us the wrong bloody platform.
Will's girlfriend could be waiting on the other platform. Or maybe she's given up waiting.
Can't see it yet.
Then relief as he spots her.
Oh, wait, it's in here. Yeah. Oh, a little blackhead. It wasn't here. Oh yeah, here it is. Hold on. He's not well. Will you marry me?
It's been an eventful ride, one the passengers will never forget. A 400-kilometre trek through the wilds of the outback. With surprise stops along the way. And finally, a platform proposal.
I better go and get the luggage off. Okay.
The end of a journey and the start of a new life.
Couldn't have gone any better, I don't think.
Stinger's cane train is making worrying noises. They've a train of fully loaded sugarcane bins, but the wheels are screaming.
Yeah, give us a minute.
And this is the culprit. Wheels jammed by a forgotten braking block.
Stop block's still moving.
A plank of wood could have derailed Stinger's day.
You right?
Yeah, stop block was still in there.
Righto.
Mikey took off to go get the ticket, and he didn't pull the stop block out. We're dragging along a bit.
But he's still on track to complete his delivery.
Yeah, Stinger, you're right to take him out steady.
There's a lot of cane here now, close to 1,400 tonne.
That's more than $30,000 worth of cane.
Not a bad day's fishing.
Now they have a 100-kilometre trip back to the mill. No stops.
Hey, Scromany, approaching the yard.
Scromany, mate. Bring yours in line 6, please.
As they arrive at the mill, out in the fields, another fire is being lit. In a few hours, Stinger and his cane train will be heading out again. They won't stop until the harvest is over.
It's been a good end of the day. Because if we would have been another half an hour later, we would have had to wait all the afternoon shift locos go out. It would have been 2 hours by the time we got back to the mill. Makes me happy.
Day's done, eh?
Thanks, mate. Have a great
So we'll
evening.
fuel it up and
We'll try.
park it up.
Next on Railroad Australia. Stopping the ore trains to fix the tracks. On this line, time really is money.
So every hour I was down was about $1 million wasted.
Crossing the continent, no place to run out of fuel. And meet the characters that keep a famous outback train running.
I'm a Thomas the Tank Engine fan gone wrong.